Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving straight into the heart of Guyana's 2025 budget. We're going to go beyond the headlines and really try to dig into what it means for international investors, folks like you who are looking at Guyana as a potential place to maybe do business.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating time for Guyana right now.
It is.
They've got this incredible economic growth that's being fueled by all their recent oil discoveries.
Right.
And this budget's kind of like a blueprint for how they plan to manage all this sudden wealth and really transform their country.
It's a big budget, hundreds of pages of plans, projections, and let's be honest, some pretty dense language.
Definitely.
Our mission today is to kind of cut through the noise and extract the most important insight for you.
Exactly. We want to equip you with the knowledge you need so you can make informed decisions about whether Guyana is the right place for your investment dollars.
Okay, so let's start with the big picture. The budget, it paints a really optimistic view of Guyana's economic future.
It does.
They're projecting strong GDP growth, even outperforming the rest of the Caribbean.
Yeah, and that's right. But it's really important to remember the global context.
Okay.
The budget acknowledges that commodity prices are fluctuating.
Right.
For example, sugar is up, which is good for Guyana's sugar industry, but oil prices are down.
Right.
And that obviously has implications for their oil revenue.
Okay, so even though oil is a huge part of their economy, it's not the whole story.
Right.
The budget highlights these other growth drivers, like rice production, gold mining, and even things like non-traditional agriculture.
And one thing that's really striking is that Guyana has one of the lowest debt to GDP ratios in the world.
Wow.
That's a huge indicator of their fiscal stability.
Okay.
And it means that they're less vulnerable to economic shocks.
And that's a big deal for investors, right?
Absolutely. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It means that Guyana is in a strong position to borrow money at really favorable interest rates, which can stimulate investment and economic activity.
Right.
It also means that they have more flexibility to invest in things like infrastructure and social programs.
The budget really emphasizes this idea of a people-centered, transformative agenda.
Yeah.
They're talking about massive investments in infrastructure, healthcare, education, and housing.
And that's not just rhetoric.
Okay.
We're seeing concrete plans for things like new bridges, new roads, a deep water harbor, all of which are essential for improving internal connectivity and boosting export capacity.
And it's not just about physical infrastructure.
Right.
They're also investing in, human capital.
Absolutely.
The budget includes things like a major overhaul of the healthcare system, including new hospitals and telemedicine initiatives.
Yeah.
They're even talking about free university tuition.
It's a bold move.
Yeah.
And it signals a real commitment to developing a skilled workforce, which is essential for attracting foreign investment and sustaining long-term economic growth.
Right.
And another interesting thing, they're aiming for self-sufficiency in corn and soybean production by the end of 2025.
Wow.
Which, if they're successful, could significantly reduce their reliance on imports and strengthen their agricultural sector.
Okay, so they're painting this picture of a country that's on the move, investing in its people and creating opportunities.
Right.
Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
What are the specific opportunities for investors?
Well, oil and gas are obviously the big players here.
Right.
The budget details active exploration and production activities, as well as the development of a local content framework.
Wait, can we pause there for a second? What exactly is a local content framework, and why should investors care?
Sure, yeah. It's essentially a set of rules and regulations designed to ensure that Guyanese businesses and workers benefit from the oil and gas boom. It might require companies to source a certain percentage of their goods and services locally, or to hire a certain number of Guyanese workers. So for investors, this means understanding those local content requirements and identifying opportunities to partner with Guyanese companies or provide specialized services that are in demand.
So it's not just about coming in and extracting resources. It's about working within the framework to create shared value and contribute to Guyana's development.
Exactly.
Now, beyond oil and gas, the budget highlights several other promising sectors.
It does.
Renewable energy is a big one.
Yeah.
They've got major hydro and solar projects underway, aligning with global trends and their own low-carbon development strategy.
That's right.
That's interesting because it shows they're not just focused on the short-term gains from oil.
Right.
They're thinking long-term about sustainability and diversifying their energy mix.
Precisely.
And for investors in the renewable energy space, this is a huge opportunity to get in on the ground floor of a rapidly growing market.
Excellent.
They also have big plans for tourism, particularly expanding hotel capacity to attract both mass market and luxury ecotourism.
Yeah.
Guyana has incredible natural beauty, and they're clearly looking to leverage that.
Mm-hmm.
What about technology and business process? Outsourcing. Is there anything in the budget that speaks to those sectors?
Definitely.
Okay.
The government is actively promoting what they call sector liberalization,
Right.
meaning they're making it easier for foreign companies to invest and operate in Guyana.
Got it.
They're also investing in cheaper bandwidth and digital skills training to attract tech companies and BPO operations that are looking for, a cost-effective and skilled workforce.
And gold mining. I know that's been a big part of Guyana's economy for a long time.
It has.
Yeah.
And the budget shows continued support for both large-scale operations and small-scale miners.
Okay.
They're also taking steps to combat smuggling and boost gold declarations, which is good news for investors looking for transparency and stability in the sector.
Okay, so we've got this wide range of potential opportunities, from oil and gas to renewables,
Yeah.
tourism, tech,
Mhm.
and even gold mining.
Yep.
But what about the nitty-gritty for investors?
Yeah.
What kind of tax incentives and business-friendly measures are we talking about?
Well, the budget's packed with incentives that are designed to make Guyana even more attractive to investors.
Okay.
For starters, the income tax threshold has been doubled since 2020.
So that means more money in people's pockets,
Right.
which can stimulate consumer spending and boost the overall economy.
Exactly.
What about corporate taxes? Are there any bricks for businesses?
Yeah, they've reduced the corporate tax rate for specific industries,
Okay.
making Guyana more competitive on the global stage.
Right.
And they're not just focusing on big businesses either.
Okay.
They're also taking steps to ease the cost of living for everyone, which indirectly benefits businesses as well.
I see they're planning to reduce electricity costs,
Yep.
abolish bridge tolls, and even provide direct cash transfers to citizens.
Mm-hmm.
That's a significant investment in social welfare.
It is, and it's not just about handouts.
Right.
These measures can have a real impact on productivity and economic growth.
Right.
For example, just reducing the cost of electricity can lower operating expenses for businesses,
Mhm.
making them more competitive.
One thing that caught my eye was the removal of VAT on agricultural machinery.
Yeah.
That seems like a very targeted incentive.
It is, and it signals a serious commitment to modernizing the agricultural sector, which, as we discussed earlier, is one of Guyana's key growth drivers.
Yeah.
So by making it more affordable for farmers to invest in new equipment, they're hoping to increase efficiency and productivity.
So we've got these tax breaks,
Mhm.
efforts to reduce the cost of doing business,
Yep.
and a government that seems genuinely committed to creating a favorable environment for investment.
Right.
But what about the practical side of things?
Yeah.
Is Guyana's bureaucracy keeping pace with its economic ambitions?
That's a key question for investors.
Yeah.
And the budget addresses it head on.
Right.
They're investing heavily in modernizing Guyana's revenue administration, which is essentially the tax collection agency.
Okay, so less red tape, more efficiency.
Exactly.
That's always music to an investor's ears.
Absolutely. They're streamlining processes, upgrading facilities, and investing in digital solutions to make interacting with the tax authorities smoother and faster.
Right.
They're even building new GRA offices in key locations across the country.
GRA. Sorry to interrupt, but for those who aren't familiar with the acronym, what does GRA stand for?
Of course, GRA stands for the Guyana Revenue Authority.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Sure.
So they're making it easier to pay taxes.
Right.
Which is never a bad thing.
Never a bad thing.
But what about the broader legal and regulatory framework? Is Guyana keeping pace with international standards?
They're making significant strides.
Okay.
The budget highlights several key reforms, including the enactment of the Petroleum Activities Act in 2023.
And what does that act do?
Well, it replaced some really outdated legislation and provides a more robust and transparent framework for the oil and gas sector.
Okay.
So it's really a signal to international investors that Guyana is serious about managing its oil wealth responsibly
Right.
and in accordance with international best practices.
So it's not just about attracting investment.
Right.
It's about attracting the right kind of investment.
Exactly.
The kind that's sustainable and beneficial for both Guyana and the investors.
Precisely. And they're not stopping there.
Okay.
The budget mentions a draft oil pollution prevention bill,
Mm-hmm.
which demonstrates their commitment to environmental protection.
Right.
They also highlight the publication of all concluded petroleum exploration and production licenses,
Okay.
promoting transparency in the sector.
Transparency is crucial.
Oh, it is.
Investors need to be confident that things are being done above board, especially when large sums of money are involved.
Absolutely. And on that note, the budget also mentions the strengthening of anti-money laundering efforts and the positive assessment that Guyana received from the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force.
Okay.
These are all positive signals for international investors who need to know that their investments are protected within a robust legal and financial system.
Okay, so we've talked about the economic outlook, the investment opportunities, the tax incentives,
Yeah.
and the efforts to create a more business-friendly environment.
Yeah.
But what about the people?
Right.
What's the government doing to develop the workforce
Yeah.
and ensure that there are enough skilled people to fill the jobs being created by all this economic activity?
Yeah, this is where the people-centered aspect of the budget really comes into play.
Yeah.
They're investing heavily in education and skills training across the board.
We talked about free university tuition earlier, which is a huge step towards making higher education accessible to everyone.
It is.
But what about vocational training? That's crucial for ensuring that people have the specific skills needed by industries like oil and gas, tourism, and tech.
You're absolutely right. And the budget outlines a comprehensive approach to what they call TVET, which stands for Technical and Vocational Education and Training.
Got it.
They're expanding existing programs, building new training centers, and partnering with private sector companies to create customized training programs that align with industry needs.
So it's not just about general education.
Right.
They're really trying to tailor training to the specific demands of the labor market.
Exactly. They recognize that a skilled workforce is essential for attracting foreign investment and sustaining long-term economic growth. And it's not just about formal education either.
Okay.
The budget also emphasizes entrepreneurship development. They're providing grants, loans, and mentorship programs to support small businesses and foster innovation.
That's exciting because small businesses are the backbone of any economy.
Absolutely.
They create jobs, drive innovation, and contribute to a more vibrant and diversified economic landscape.
And by supporting small businesses, the government is essentially investing in the long-term economic resilience of the country.
This is all starting to paint a very compelling picture of Guyana as an investment destination.
It is.
But we still need to address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The challenges and risks.
Right.
No investment is without risk.
Yeah.
And Guyana is no exception.
Yeah.
Right? We've talked about a lot of positive things, but it's important to acknowledge the challenges that Guyana faces.
Yeah.
They're still dealing with legacy issues like corruption and bureaucratic inefficiencies.
Those are valid concerns, and I think it's really important for investors to go in with their eyes wide open.
Yeah.
These issues can't be fixed overnight.
Yeah.
It takes time to build strong institutions and a culture of transparency.
But it seems like the government is at least acknowledging these challenges and taking steps to address them.
Yeah, and that's a really positive sign.
Yeah.
The budget mentions efforts to strengthen the judiciary, improve public procurement processes, and enhance the capacity of oversight institutions.
Right.
So these are all steps in the right direction.
Another potential challenge is managing this influx of oil wealth responsibly.
Yeah.
There's always a risk that a sudden influx of money could lead to instability or exacerbate existing inequalities.
Absolutely. And that's where transparency and accountability are so important.
Right.
Investors need to see that the government is committed to managing these resources for the benefit of all Guyanese, not just a select few.
The budget seems to emphasize this idea of shared prosperity and sustainable development.
It does.
They're talking about investing in education, healthcare, and social programs to ensure that everyone benefits from the economic growth.
It's a delicate balancing act.
Yeah.
They need to attract foreign investment to drive economic growth,
Right.
but they also need to ensure that that growth is inclusive
Right.
and that it benefits all segments of society.
So for potential investors, it sounds like Guyana presents a really interesting opportunity, but it's not without its risks.
Yeah, it's a country in transition with enormous potential, but also some very real challenges.
That's a great way to put it. It's a classic high-risk, high-reward scenario.
Exactly.
And that's where doing your due diligence becomes critical.
It really does.
The budget document is a valuable resource,
It is.
but it's just a starting point.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else should investors be looking at?
Well, they need to kind of dig deeper, analyze specific sectors, understand the regulatory landscape,
Right.
and perhaps most importantly, get a feel for the country itself, the people, the culture, and the overall business environment.
It's about connecting the dots, seeing the bigger picture, and understanding the nuances of Guyana's unique economic journey.
I think that's right.
Yeah,
And this deep dive has hopefully given you a good foundation to start that process.
I think so. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the macroeconomic outlook to sector-specific opportunities,
Yeah,
tax incentives, and the challenges and risks of investing in Guyana.
and it really is a complex picture, but one that's full of potential. We've seen how the government is laying the groundwork for sustained economic growth,
Right.
but it's ultimately up to each individual investor to weigh those risks and rewards and decide if Guyana is the right place for their investment dollars.
We always like to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question, something to ponder as they explore these opportunities.
That's right.
So here it is. Imagine you're an investor with your sights set beyond the oil and gas sector.
Okay.
What other areas of Guyana's economy pique your interest and why? do your own research, explore the possibilities, and see if Guyana might be the right fit for you.
That's a great question.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Guyana's 2025 budget.
Thanks for having me.